Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are doing another tag video. This one was created by my new friend on YouTube, Movie Freak. So he's come up with his own tag. He's just started on YouTube, so he's trying to get the word out. And he's come up with his own tag. So I'm going to show some support, and I hope you guys can show a little support too, by doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre tag. That's right, so all questions are based on the legendary Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, which is still going to this day. Started way back in 1974. How about that? So I did a similar tag to this a few months ago called the Leatherface tag. But this is much different. The questions are a lot different. And I think it's going to be a real fun one. So let's get started, shall we? The first one is, do you consider Texas Chainsaw Massacre a slasher film? Yes, I do. I do consider it a slasher film. Yeah, it's not the standard lone killer with a knife chasing down babysitters or whatever, young teenagers. But it's a whole family of maniacs, First you got the legendary Leatherface, who was based on real-life serial killer Ed Gein. And you have a whole family of maniacs, so to me that's even scarier. And the film is certainly very, very influential on the slasher genre. It established several of the tropes that films like Halloween and Friday the 13th followed. That's right, Halloween came out 4 years later. But yeah, the grittiness, the brutality of it, it's definitely a gritty, grimy slasher film, I would say. But certainly one of the best. Slasher is not a bad thing. You can have a great movie and be a slasher film. Look at Black Christmas, look at Halloween. So number 2 is rank all the TCM movies from best to worst. So number 1 is, it's a no-brainer. It's got to be the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, no question about it. And next up, right in order, number 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I love this film, and I still feel it doesn't get the love it deserves. Because I think it's an awesome, awesome sequel. It's one of my favorite horror sequels of all time. I love it. Number 3 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre The Beginning. Now this is actually the sequel, or is it a prequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003. And I actually think it was a little better than the remake from 2003, honestly. I really liked it because it focused mainly on the Leatherface character, and of course Sheriff Hoyt, played by the great R. Lee Ermey. It focused mainly on those two characters, and that's why I really enjoyed it, because they do such a fantastic job. Next up is TCM the remake from 2003. I kind of feel this way as I feel the Halloween remake, There's a lot of things I like and a lot of things I don't care about so much, I'm kind of in the middle, but I do think it's pretty good overall, I'll say, It's definitely not a bad film. It's certainly much better than the previous two, And I do think Jessica Biel was a fantastic final girl, and she had a great performance. I think they handled the Leatherface character very well. So number 5 is Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I was very disappointed in this one. I went to see it in the theater, and this was the first one I saw in the theaters. And I was expecting it to be a sequel to Part 2, and it wasn't. It was a completely new story with a completely new family for Leatherface. And it just had nothing to do with the others, And I just didn't care for it, I still don't care for it much, A lot of people, some people do love it though, Next up is number 6, Texas Chainsaw 3D. Did not care for this movie at all. I thought it was a really lame attempt at making a direct sequel to the original, but yet it's so obvious that it's not. Obviously it looks like a 2000 16 movie or whatever year it was. It's painfully obvious. They could have tried to make it look like it was taking place in the 1970s, but they made no effort to. So how am I supposed to believe that this is a sequel to the original when it looks nothing like it? And it was just terrible. It was awful. I just didn't care for it. So next up is Leatherface. And I cared for that even less, you know. That's the most recent one that came out. I believe it was just last year that came out, 2017. And of course, the bottom of the barrel has to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Oh, I can smell the stink right now, the stench of that piece of garbage. Somehow this one managed to get a small theatrical release. I don't know how, but it's just horrible, horrible movie. Number 3 is, do you consider the 2000 remake a good one? So as I said before, I do think it's a pretty good one. I won't say it's great or even a solid good, but it's pretty good. You know, I put it right there with like the Halloween remake, where I'm kind of in the middle with it. I like certain things and I don't like other things, you know. So number 4 is, what is your favorite Leatherface mask? So for that I'm going to go with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I thought the mask, which was created by legendary gore effects master Tom Savini, he did all the gore effects on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and he did such an awesome job, especially on Leatherface's mask. I think it looks absolutely grotesque. It looks sick as hell. I love the original one too, but I felt this one was even better. Now, overall, I think Gunnar Hansen's performance as Leatherface was the best of all time, but the mask in Part 2 I thought looked better. So next up is, if you were on a road trip traveling through Texas, would you pick up the hitchhiker? Hell no, of course I would not pick up the hitchhiker. Just looking at the guy, he looks like a freaking lunatic. He looks like a nutty. Why in the hell would you pick him up? I don't pick up hitchhikers anyway. I never have and I never will. I just don't trust people, you know. You hear so many horror stories about people picking up hitchhikers and they get murdered and they end up in a ditch somewhere, in the woods somewhere, you know. Hell no. No way. Number 6 is, who would win in a chainsaw duel? Leatherface or Ash Williams from the Evil Dead franchise, of course. Gotta go with Leatherface. Come on, Leatherface is the master of the chainsaw. The one and only Leatherface. You gotta give it to him. So number 7, what versions of the original TCM do you have on DVD/Blu-ray? Well, yeah, I'm in serious need of an upgrade. All I have right now is the special edition DVD, which is not bad. I mean, it does have some solid special features on it. Yeah, but obviously the picture is still kind of grainy, and it's not the greatest transfer in the world. But then again, why would you want Texas Chainsaw Massacre to be that crisp and clear looking? You don't want a 4K Blu-ray of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You want that nasty, gritty, shaky camcorder feel. That makes it look more realistic, I think, you know, like it's really happening. So you don't need a Blu-ray for something like that, you know. Number 8 is, Leatherface is a hulking giant with the mentality of a child. Do you think he would be different if he was brought up with a different family? Now that's a great question. And I have to say, yes, I do think he would have been brought up differently. I think he would have been, if he had been in like a middle-class environment, at least, I think he would have been raised differently. Yeah, he would still have mental problems that the family would have to deal with. He'd have to see a therapist, he'd have to see a doctor, you know. But, yeah, he would always have those mental issues, I think. But I think he would be a lot better off. He would be more clean-cut and, you know, He could probably function in society. I mean, he may always have to have somebody with him, in case he did flip out a little. But I think he could function in society. I don't think he would be quite as... He wouldn't be anywhere near as batshit crazy as he is in the films. So number 9 is, to some people, TCM isn't considered as influential to the slasher genre, such as Friday the 13th, Halloween, or Nightmare on Elm Street. Do you think it should be recognized more, or is it fine the way it is? Now, I have to say, I mean, it is revered pretty highly, I would say. I mean, maybe not quite at the level of Halloween, but I mean, the franchise is still going, so that says a lot, and it's been going since 1974. And somehow they always manage to get big budget releases in the movie theaters. They always come out in the theater. It's never straight to DVD. Even the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, which is the biggest piece of crap, even that came out in the theater very briefly. None of them have gone straight to DVD or straight to video. So that shows you, there is a major fan base out there for these films, even though a lot of the quality drastically varies, and many of the more recent ones I don't care for. I'd say I like less of them than I do like some of them, So yeah, so this has been the Texas Chainsaw Massacre tag by my buddy Movie Freak. So show him some support, and let me tag some people now. I'm going to tag Kweeny Todd. I'm going to tag Blue Terror, who I've never tagged before. I'm going to tag Random Matt Videos, The Last Shoegazer, ANDREWBALLINA, The Late Late Horror Show, Horror Fan 34, and Michael Myers 101. So guys, answer the call and do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre tag. I'm going to leave the link below to my buddy Movie Freak. So guys, check out his channel, like and subscribe to him. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.